Happy Monday, Jill.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Monday.
Good morning. Welcome. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Laurie Davis, and our first show of the week, the Today Show. And on Monday, it's self-care, empowerment, self-improvement. What's on your cup there, Jill?
This is Peter Keto. This is Enjoy Your Breakfast. He was a self-care advocate and a mentor of mine. Unfortunately, he passed away last November, but we are continuing his legacy. And his motto was enjoy your breakfast. And I'm doing that with you right now.
Wow, that's so special.
Peter Keto.
Awesome. Beautiful. Here's to Peter. Well, why don't we just dedicate this show to Peter? Tell us a little bit about him.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Peter Keto worked in corrections for a number of years, and he developed trauma response programs for first responders that helped folks in that field deal with trauma decompression after a shift. And it was adapted provincially and then nationally, his program. And so he was a volunteer trauma counselor as well for a number of years, and he did it all as a volunteer, and he saved lives. And
Wow.
I was blessed to have support from him about a year ago when I needed it. Yeah, and now he's an angel for me.
Awesome. And we had the distinct pleasure last week of meeting his wife, Anne.
Yes.
And thank you for inviting her to our gathering last Monday night.
She's
awesome.
Lovely. She's become family for me.
Yeah, for sure. Well, today we thought we'd do something a little different because I'm the one that's always yap, and interviewing other people. And so I said to Jill, I need to be interviewed. I want to get our message out there too. So would you be willing to interview me today? And she said, absolutely, I would. So I'm just going to turn the mic over to you, and we'll get started. We'll take a break about 1:15 and run our snowflake ad.
Mm-hmm.
And again at the bottom of the hour and at 1:45, because we're getting ready now to take on some advertisers.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where they will be featured 3 times on the show. If you have a product, a book, an event, a CD, anything that you'd like to promote, we'll advertise it for you. All right. Over to you, Jill.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Laurie. So it's Self-Care Monday, and I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. And so we'll get started. So Dr. Laurie Davis, what is the difference between self-worth and self-confidence?
Well, that's a very good question, because a lot of people think it's the same thing. They think that if they're confident, then they have high self-esteem. Now, self-esteem, self-worth, self-love, self-respect, they all mean the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference is, let's start with confidence. Confidence is our ability to take risks. So, for example, we all get married. We don't know if it's going to work out or not, but we do it anyway. Right? And for some of us, we do it more than once.
Really?
Yeah. Right? Can you relate to that? Or, we decide we're going to have a baby, and we don't know if that baby's going to turn out, healthy and all that, but we do it anyway. And some women do it more than once.
Right.
And it's in all areas of our life that we take risks. So it could be in finance. We invest in something and it doesn't work out. But it takes confidence to step out and take those risks. And that's what confidence is.
Mm-hmm.
And I know lots of people who have tons of confidence, but they don't have any self-worth. Self-worth is the value we are able to place on ourselves.
Oh, that's good.
How much do I love myself? Am I going to love myself enough that I'm not going to let other people mess with me? Mm-hmm. Do I love myself enough that I'm not going to, drink too much, smoke too much, take drugs? Do I love myself enough to keep myself healthy, take care of myself? So even when everybody around us is screaming we don't have any value, when you have your self-worth intact, it won't matter what anybody says.
Wow.
And that's the difference. But a lot of people think they're the same thing, and they're not.
That's wise words. Thank you for that. Thank you. So you've been in this business now for over 30 years.
Mhm.
And congratulations, first and
Thank you.
foremost. So you started your business with two girlfriends.
Yes, I
Can you tell
did.
us about that? I'm curious.
Yes, sure. Well, I came home one day and I said to Ron, who was in the business with me at the time, my husband, he's retired now,
Mhm.
but I said to him, I've discovered something. And he said, what's, and by then we'd been in business about 5 years. And I said, I've discovered something. I felt like I had invented something. And he said, what's that? I said, well, the first thing, I've taught school for 15 years. I was in sales and marketing for 12 years. We've been in business for 5 years. That's a lot of years working with people,
Mhm.
all ages, all background. And I said, you know what? Most people are walking around like there's something wrong with them,
Mhm.
or they feel like there's something wrong with them. Would you agree with that, Jill?
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not thin enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not handsome enough. I'm not smart enough. We're always, looking for what's not there.
Mhm.
So I said, most people are walking around feeling like there's something wrong with them.
Mhm.
Number two, many, many people lack confidence, that thing we talked about, taking risks.
Mhm.
And they want to stay in that little cotton ball or in that same career for 50 years, or, they want to just be safe all the time. And number three, poor communication skills to get the results we want,
Right.
either personally or professionally. And Ron's standing there and he said, well, when did you figure that out? I said, I guess in the last 25 years. I don't know. But I know that it exists and I'm going to do something about it.
Mhm.
See, because feeling like there's something wrong with us, that's low self worth.
Yes.
So, esteem issues, confidence issues, and communication issues. So I thought, well, all right, how am I going to do this? Well, I didn't know. He said, well, what are you going to do? You have to have a plan. You need a plan.
Mhm.
I said, yes, we need a plan. Look who's here watching today, our beautiful Virginia Clark.
Good
Good
morning, Virginia.
morning, Virginia. And so he said, well, how can I support you? And I said, well, oh, yes. The reason I had to have a plan was because he was ex-military,
Oh.
right? And you don't do anything without a plan, the art of war, fixing an aircraft, whatever.
Mhm.
So I said, I don't know. So he said, well, what can I do? I said, well, you can take me to our cabin. We had a little cabin in the woods, Nova Scotia. Spent the whole weekend trying to come up with a plan.
Mhm.
By Sunday afternoon, I still didn't have a plan. I had paper and markers and everything all over the table. I had no idea what I was doing. But then all of a sudden it hit me. It was like divine intervention. Ask yourself some questions. Why don't you have any confidence?
Ah.
What happened for you that you don't feel good enough?
Mhm.
So I started creating some questions and the next thing you know, I had 10 workshops. And
Wow.
I thought, gee, now this is a start. And I went home and I grabbed two of my girlfriends. They were each coming out of marriages, they were trashed. They'd been married to doctors who ran off with the secretary, that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
I said, I think I'm onto something and I need a couple of guinea pigs.
Mhm.
I know you're not doing anything Wednesday night, so come on over. And they came over. I had a little office about the size of a postage stamp, and we got started.
Mhm.
And what I did was an hour a week, go home, do your home assignment, come back the next Wednesday. It was the delivery system that people really embraced. 3 weeks later, they came to me and said, can we invite some other people? Because other people are noticing a difference in me and they're asking me what I'm doing.
After just 3 hours of workshops,
That's right.
1 hour a week over 3 weeks. That's
Yes.
amazing. Yes.
So by week number 6, I had 28 people in the group.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I went, this isn't going to work. Too many.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's how we got started. And then they came back to me and said, we want to come back.
Mhm.
We want to come back. Can you make up 10 more workshops? I said, sure. So I did. And that progressed 2 more times so that series of workshops has 40 workshops in it. And
Mhm.
that was our baseline, our foundation, if you will. And then I had another woman come up and say, My 14-year-old son could really use this kind of information and support. Have you ever considered creating a youth program? I said I could, because see, I was a teacher, so I knew how to write curriculum. So
Mhm.
everything we do has a workbook. And that's how we got started.
Wow. That's incredible. And it's so simple, yet it's so powerful.
Right.
So you mentioned youth programs. Let's talk about children for a moment. And also you mentioned self-esteem. How do children have low self-esteem? And is low self-worth the same thing as low self-esteem?
Yes. They're exactly the same thing. The word self-esteem didn't really come into play until the late 80s, early 90s. So imagine I'm a school teacher. I'm young. I'm in my 20s. I don't know much. And I'm in the public school system in a classroom, and I have no concept of what self-esteem is or what it means. We never had that. Was never part of our training. It was never in our teacher training. And it wasn't until the late 80s that started to evolve around, wow, like, and yes, children can have low self-esteem very early on. As a matter of fact, research has shown that by the time we're 3 years old, we're already making decisions about our value
Wow.
and where we fit into the family and whether or not. So just imagine some of the things that can happen to little kids between 0 and 5. Maybe they come home from that hospital in perfect shape and there's maybe no dad in the picture. Maybe there's no food in the picture. And those things are all esteem busters because they reduce our ability to think that I'm special or I have value. So it happens very soon.
So can we expand on the trauma then? Sure. How does trauma affect self-worth?
Well, it's an esteem buster. It crushes it. Let's say, like all those circumstances that continue to prove to me that I have no value, then I embrace that belief system that I have no value. I'm not good enough. How many of our women friends and our men friends are out there feeling like they're not good enough?
Right.
Well, where did that come from? Well, you just have to go to a local retail outlet that's all around the world that starts with W and listen to how parents are talking to their children in the grocery store and yelling and screaming and slapping. And why would I feel special being humiliated in public? You see, that's why we have to be so very careful how we communicate.
Yes.
See, communication is the big problem. Because even though we might swear that we're not going to parent, we usually parent like we were parented. So imagine you saying to yourself, I'm never going to do things like mom did, or I'm never going to do things like dad did. And the next thing you know, mom is coming out of your mouth. Right?
Right.
Right. So my youngest client has been 6.
Oh.
And my eldest client has been 93.
That's fantastic.
Male, female, all cultures. We've crossed all the races. We've been to Asia. We worked in the Black community, the Indigenous community, the white community, men, women, the gay community, the lesbian community. Yeah, you name the community, we've probably been there.
Now, was there a specific incident or situation that inspired you to educate people on self-worth? Like, was there a tip, something that you just said, okay, this is where I need to go on, and you were certain about that? Was there something specific?
Yes, definitely there was. And I'm just going to think on that. We'll take a little break. And then when I come back, I'll share. There were a few things actually, but there was one pivotal situation for sure.
Okay.
All right. We'll be right back. Welcome back, Jill. Thank you. These are just, this is great questions. Also, I see we have quite a few people watching live. So if you're watching live on Facebook or YouTube, just make sure that you leave a comment, that you ask a question. If you're on Facebook and you do that, it'll show up here on the screen, and we can pop it up for the show. Now the question was, what inspired me? Well, first thing is, when I decided that I wanted to, work on those 3 areas, I did a lot of research on self-worth, and I couldn't find anything.
Oh.
Nobody had ever written a paper about it. No one had ever written a book about it that I knew about. And so I thought, wow, this is virgin territory, so to speak, because nobody had kind of gone down that path. And so I was going to be the person to do that. And I did it a step at a time, a stage at a time. But I'd had a situation, my own trauma, in 1986, after 2 very serious suicide attempts from my husband, and then in an institution for 2.5 years, and got out and disappeared. He's been on a missing persons list since 1986. I thought, wow, how does that happen to someone who didn't drink, very little, didn't do drugs, wasn't an addict that I knew about anyway, but I had a very limited view of everything. Right? And I thought, wow, I thought a victim was somebody in a car accident. Right? So then I saw the need for, rather than therapy or psychology, and we need our professionals, no disrespect, but people need to be educated. I'd been sexually assaulted by a family member as a young girl, and I never equated that to being a victim. I didn't know anything. I guess naivety, if you will. Right? So our stuff that we do, it's educational, comes from an educational perspective. What is denial? What is self-hatred? What is victimization? What is anger? What is it? And so what is love? What is forgiveness? What does that look like? How can I bring that into my life? So we became the how-to people. See, a lot of people say, well, you should love yourself. It's so important that you love yourself.
Oh, right. It's not that easy, right?
Well, they don't tell us how to do it. Right? You could be going for some professional care, and they're saying, it's really important that you love yourself. Well, I don't know about you, Jill, but I don't remember my mom ever sitting me down and saying, now, sweetie, when the what hits the fan and you're feeling badly about yourself, here's how you continue to love yourself. Has anybody ever had that conversation? Right?
How the world would be different if that happened. Yes. And it will happen with what you're teaching people.
Yeah, it is happening. And it's been happening for many years, right?
Oh my goodness. So you've developed over 1,000 workshops. That's that's a legacy to the 30 years you've put your heart and soul into these programs. Can you share what some of these workshops are? I'm so curious.
Well, you bet. And now you've been on the receiving end of 10 of them. So why don't you just do a little testimonial for us and tell us a little bit about your experience? What happened for you after you came home, after you finished your series? 10 workshops.
I felt lighter. I felt less tension in my spine. I have clearer insight to see things from a different perspective. I have a different filter now to view things. So, cool. And it's still fresh, and I'm excited. I'm feeling very hopeful and empowered.
Exactly.
It's interesting. It happens almost organically, but with the right guidance, which is what you provide. Because it is experiential. It is a workshop. People who are taking these workshops, it's work. It's work, but it's powerful work and very, very vital work for everyone, I believe.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, we've talked about that, so we've talked about how people get their self-worth damaged or we lose our self-worth. But the fact is, we came with it. It's in our DNA to feel worthy.
Mm.
And how, people who, want to know that we're divine beings, God's children, why wouldn't we be perfect? We are perfect. We came here perfectly. It's just our situations that haven't always been perfect. But there's really nothing wrong with us. It's how we responded, how we reacted, how we bought in, how we believed people in positions of authority. I remember in grade 10, my homeroom teacher, I didn't do well in school. I did well to pull off a 70. And of course, they going from grade 9 to high school, they read your cumulative record cards.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked at me and she said, "Well, after examining your history here in junior high, I doubt that you're going to amount to anything very much." Right? I
Wow.
mean, we're talking in the 60s, and the
Yeah.
expectation for women in the 60s was to get married, find the rich husband, get married, have babies, and stay home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's where the hole that she punched me into.
Right.
So I know that people needed the education. So the 1,000 workshops, they evolved, like that woman that came up to me and said, my 14-year-old son could use this. So then I went back to the drawing board. Then I had one of the women in my group share that her marriage, her relationship was really shaky. And
Mm-hmm.
then I went back and I created 12 workshops for couples. So when I work with couples, I just work with one couple at a time, 12 workshops, a getaway weekend, and bada bing, bada boom. And
Mm-hmm.
I think over the years, I've only had 3 couples separate permanently afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But they did it with more dignity than they would have had they not had that education, right?
Yes. Yes.
Um, then I decided, after delivering that core program, one of the things that we do, I have it right here actually, is we do a balance wheel.
Oh, yes.
And 2 of the areas in the balance wheel where people always scored the lowest was health and wellness and finance.
Oh.
Yeah, they're connected, everything's connected. So I went back to the drawing board and I created 40 workshops in finance and 40 workshops in wellness. And I hired some professionals to support me with the pieces of that I didn't know anything about. But now we have that. We have little mini work. I called it my mini series, 10 Ways to Build Confident Children. And we're actually going to be doing that workshop on Sunday evening.
Oh, yes. As a fundraiser for Virginia.
For Virginia Clark. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be happening this weekend. And Doug Smith and I are going to host that together, 10 Ways to Build Confident Children. And that's actually our anti-bullying workshops. Because if you think about it, bullies don't prey on confident kids. They prey on the kids that they feel are insecure.
Yes.
So, and the bullies are also insecure. So
Yes.
it's not about anything other than helping anybody that works with kids, teachers, counselors, Sunday school teachers, athletic coaches, whoever you are out there, and you work with kids. This is such a valuable process.
Mm-hmm.
Living a balanced lifestyle, 10 workshops. 10 ways to grow your business, 10 workshops. And in the last 3 years, we've expanded our product line. We have 100 workshops. If you want to become a professional entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
100 workshops will get you there. That's
Mm-hmm.
100 hours of work.
Yes.
Know everything you need to know about being an entrepreneur. You can learn how to be an entrepreneur. You're not necessarily born a leader or born an entrepreneur. You learn those things.
Yes.
And I thought, there's no education for that. You can get an MBA degree, but that doesn't teach you anything about being an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
That's a special breed. We are. We have 100 workshops in leadership. Anybody in a leadership position needs training, and we have 100.
Absolutely.
We have
Well,
100 workshops. 100 workshops in finance. And if somebody came up to me and said, "Look, we'd like to have," I've created customized workshops for organizations like You know, one time a bank came to me and they said, we'd like you to create a customer service product for our bank, for our tellers.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that, and we just put their logo on it, and I charge for that, and they can have it. So I've created stuff for other people,
Yes.
other organizations.
I like
So
the way that you've set it up. It makes it manageable and workable, and 1 hour a week, and then you just slowly implement, so it's not
yeah,
overwhelming. You grow. It's like an organic process. It's and you have support with not only the instructor but with the people attending the workshops as well.
yes, and we just work in small groups. We don't put more than 6 people in a workshop
Mm-hmm.
because it's very difficult to do your personal work in a room full of people.
Yes.
It actually can't happen. It's not possible.
Right.
Because you're going to hold back on pieces that you don't want others to see because you'll feel judged or you'll feel intimidated. Or so we learned that along the way. You know, we did a lot of things wrong, but we did a lot of things right. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and that's part of developing the programming. And yes, people need a safe space, especially if they're dealing with trauma.
Mm-hmm.
They need to feel safe to heal and grow. Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely. So who have been some of your clients over the years?
Well, because of our confidentiality, we don't share names, but in certain
Mm-hmm.
situations I can.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is you know, I got a call one day. It always comes with a phone call. And so I got a call one day from a woman in Halifax who lived in a very poor part of the city, the ghetto.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "We need your help." And I said, "Okay." She said, "Would you come and visit with us? Because we need to change our community." You can come and change our community, they said. I said, "Oh no, but I can show you how to change a community." So, long story short, 6 women at the end of the day decided they were willing to do the personal work. And I worked with them for a whole year. And I funded it because there was no money involved here. And at that time, we're talking 2005, there was no money from social services. You know, they were all on welfare. So, yeah, at the end of the year, those 6 women did turn their community around. And that was one of my favorite projects. And 25 years ago, we worked in Elsipogtog, New Brunswick, which was called Big Cove, New Brunswick. We worked in there for 2 years. That's where I piloted my youth program, and that's where a lot of good work was done. And the next generation who piloted the youth program are now all in their 30s, and I got to go and visit the community in 2019 and see the work that they'd done in their community. I'll tell you, I drove by the entrance road to the reserve 5 times because I didn't recognize it. When I went there was an old barn and it was gravel roads and it was garbage everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the front, there's a big mall, there's a gas station, there's a pharmacy, and the streets are all paved and curbed and sidewalks and beautiful new homes. And my friends that I stayed with, they said, "You know who built all that? You know who did that? Those kids that took your youth program."
Congratulations. That's amazing. Yes, you empowered them to take pride in
Yeah,
the community,
I
to
told them
develop, to
they
be
could be
pillars in their community.
That's right. You could be whatever you want.
Oh,
Blue, I have to say, bloom where you're planted, right?
yes, exactly.
And then I had another beautiful project in Taiwan. I had a call from, I was actually renting space to a young doctor and his wife and family who were immigrating to Canada from Taiwan. And his best friend, Dr. John Lin, was the head of psychiatry at Mercy Catholic Hospital in Chinsu City, Taiwan. So we got on a Skype call. He said, "My friend John is going to want to talk to you."
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up traveling to Taiwan and educating him and his professional staff, psychiatric nurse, psychologist, blah, blah. And I was there for 2 weeks. And they had come online with me. I had worked with them for 40 weeks online. 9 o'clock Monday morning was 9 o'clock Monday night for them.
Mm-hmm.
So we worked those 40 weeks and then he flew me over because he wanted me to work with his staff. And that's when the product was translated into Chinese. I have a full Chinese hard copy of the 40 workshops in the core empowerment program.
Oh my goodness.
And it has also been translated into French, Chinese, well, Chinese, French, and Spanish, and German. So, you know, as people came into the organization with different gifts and abilities, it helped everybody that was ever here. And I want to say this publicly, I am so grateful for every person that has ever been here, whether it was a short term, long term, that got us where we are right now today.
So you've gone international. And
well,
you know, when things work, that's what happens.
Yes. And, you know, I want to write a book. Jesus went global and he didn't have a website.
Hashtag.
Hashtag. And yes, we became international though in 2002 when this particular technology became available at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a client of mine from Vancouver call me and say, Laurie, there's a new technology and it'd be perfect for what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And Jill, at that time, I didn't even have a computer to work on. My staff, I had a computer in the office, but I wasn't personally on a computer.
Uh-huh.
And when we embraced that, it was just voice. There were no cameras, which was great for me because then it brought anonymity to my clients. And that's when men started coming and taking the workshops.
Yes.
There was a big shift there. So let's take a little break and think about what you're going to ask me next. So I hope I answered that question about, you know, all the different kinds. I mean, we have lots of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We could broadcast for 10 years and never run out of content. Welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us, you're watching the Today Show. I'm Dr. Laurie Davis and my beautiful co-host today, Jill Younghusband. And we're doing things backwards today because I'm the one being interviewed. How cool is that? I love it. And anything, Jill, at all you want to ask about, please feel free to do that.
Yeah, we're talking about self-care. It's Self-Care Monday. And we're talking about how you got started in the programs that are available for people. And, you know, this is so needed now after what we've been through over the last 4 years. Everyone, I don't care what side of the narrative you're on, everyone has been affected by what's happened in the last 4 years. And this is a lifeline, I feel, for people. And it's doable, but I think yes, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and that I feel has happened for me in the last month. And I'm sitting here and I'm really enjoying this conversation with you. And you know, when you invited me to say, well, Jill, you're going to interview me, my first reaction was, oh no, I'm not ready. But wait a minute, no, let's have some fun. Let's have a conversation, because this is something I have been looking to do for years, and now here I am doing it. And with your encouragement, because your belief in me has empowered me as well. Mm-hmm. And so I am really enjoying this session with you today, Dr. Laurie.
Thank you.
So who have been your mentors or your teachers?
Well, I've been blessed with some very good people in my life, and I would say my very first official mentor was Mary Kay Ash, because I joined the Mary Kay organization in 1980. I was still teaching school, but Mary Kay was coming to Canada, and I just thought, I went to a skincare class, and I thought, gee, this would be kind of fun. I don't really know anything about makeup. Little did I know that I would be getting ready to do, I ended up doing TV and film, makeup, artistry, and all that. And I thought, wow, how convenient is that for me today? So, but Mary Kay Ash, she used to come to Canada frequently because they were building and she was still very active in the company. And so I got to meet her. I was in her home 2 or 3 times. And I embarrassed myself incredibly in front of her one time. And that's a story in itself. That's when she showed me that she was my mentor. And so the very first one, and to be a mentor, I'm considered a mentor today because of the decades that I've been working, but she was amazing. And she would say to you, "So how are you today?" And I might say, "I'm fine, Mary Kay, thank you." And no, she put her hand on your arm and say, "You're not fine, you're great."
I love it.
I know. And of course, I was a big fan of Dr. Wayne Dyer, the late Dr. Wayne Dyer. I read all of his stuff in the 70s. I've had Ileana Thailand, also deceased now. She taught me everything that I needed to know to work in the Indigenous communities. And she passed away in 2000. She was a powerful mentor of mine because she could call me out on my stuff. And she told me one time, she said, "You're an addict." And I said, "No, I'm not. I don't drink and I don't smoke." There was my limited view of what an addict was. I didn't know you could be a workaholic, a shopaholic, that was me, a chocoholic, and anything with a holic on the end is not good for you. Not good for you. And she said, "Yeah, you know what your addiction is?" And I said, "No," because I didn't know myself. I was busy tap dancing to what everybody else wanted me to do, And I went, I didn't want to be a teacher. I wanted to be an interior designer, but I had gotten a scholarship to the Nova Scotia Teachers College, and that's where I was going, whether I liked it or not. But, so she said, "No, your addiction is perfectionism and control." She said, "That has cost you more than if you'd been on crack or cocaine."
Wow.
And she was right. I spent a fortune on looking good, traveling, everything had, like, Jill, if you were coming for supper, it would have taken me 3 weeks to get ready. I'd be changing the tablecloth. And, you've been in my dining room, so I love China and all that stuff. But now it's different, and I do it for different reasons. But back then it would be because I was afraid you would judge me.
Yes.
Now I do it because I want to, be the excellent service provider, and I want my guests to have the best. So it's different motivation. See, it's not really what we do. We have to ask ourselves, why am I doing it?
Yes.
So the perfectionism and the control. So what did I end up doing? I ended up being in a classroom. Well, that's where you'll find all the controllers. Okay? Because we're in a very controlled environment, and it was the environment that I knew for how many years before that. So the conditioning and the programming, and every time I see a red colored pencil,
yes,
it just drives me crazy. And I do have one, but I go, when I see a red pencil,
yeah,
because when things were wrong,
oh yeah,
were right.
Oh, the check mark.
Oh, the check mark. And
the power of the check mark.
Right, and circled. And teachers loved those red pencils. And I'm thinking, every time I used one, I'm putting some little kid down and it's okay to correct and edit and all that, but then we become adult editors and correctors, and we're always correcting and editing and finding fault. And, people are all hung up if you spell a word wrong or that's not perfect, right? So I spent a lot of years in perfectionism, and it was like a drug.
You remind me of that British television series, Keeping Up Appearances, with
Edith. Yes.
Day. And I think it became so popular because everybody could relate to it. Everybody's trying to keep up appearances and not show what's really happening in their lives. Everything's good. It's all good. Yeah. So with Mary Kay, you became very successful because of her mentorship, I feel, in that business. And who else could you say was a mentor for you?
Well, Mary Kay, Ileana, Thailand. I had another mentor, and I purchased my first retreat center from her. And she had been very successful. She had the only indoor riding arena in the Maritimes.
Mm-hmm.
At the peak of her career, she was boarding and breaking 65 horses at a time. She did a lot of riding clinics and whatever. And I ended up purchasing her product, her property. But she and I became friends.
Mm-hmm.
And she was extremely helpful. She was older, and shared her secrets of success. She was a self-made millionaire by the time she was in her 40s. And we spent a lot of hours over cups of tea talking about, how to stay strong in bad situations. And, you've got to be able to flow. You've got to be able to ride the waves of the hard times, the good times. And I consider her a mentor as well.
Right.
But now most of my mentors have passed away. So now I'm the mentor.
And there's mentors are so important.
Mhm.
I know for myself, I have gotten so much confidence from people such as yourself. I've had mentors in my life over the years, and some of them are still here, some not. But the encouragement, the power of encouragement, and the power of love coming from mentors, because they see something in us that we don't see, because we block everything with our own insecurities and the tapes that we run and so on.
Mhm.
And yes, the power of encouragement and support can't be understated.
No. And my most recent mentor, I've just remembered, I need to mention Robbie. But during COVID, I joined an organization in the US called the Global Society for Female Entrepreneurs, headed up by Dr. Robbie Motter. She has been my current mentor. She said, "Don't give up. Everything will come back. Don't worry about it." And it was actually through Robbie that we expanded her organization, because now it's on Zoom and we can do online meetings. And so she invited me to be the director for Canada. So we have a meeting the first Wednesday of every month at noon Mountain Time. And um, this is a powerful organization that supports, educates, and empowers female entrepreneurs. And
Mm-hmm.
I've met the most amazing people through the organization, and I have some amazing friends, and some of them are on our team. And I'm excited to help expand the Canadian organization now, because it's something that we need to do.
Yes. Well, once we have this recording posted, I'll share the link for that organization
Yes,
in the
absolutely.
comments. Yes.
Yeah, and if you're a female entrepreneur out there and you need some support and you want to network and promote your business,
Mm-hmm.
then join us. It costs $75. Are you ready for this, Jill? It costs $75 to be a member for a whole year.
That's easy. That's
Isn't that
affordable.
easy?
And look at the resources you're able to
Oh, yeah,
draw.
and I think right now we have about 350 to 400 members, and now we're international. We have meetings, New York, I mean everywhere. So yeah, so I'm wanting to build the Canadian network. Let's do it.
Well, I got to get on that. I'll join this week.
Okay, perfect. Thank
Looking
you.
forward to it. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. So, moving forward, I was in the military for 17
Yes.
years, and I've worked as a veterans advocate for many years. And moving forward, we need healthy leaders in our communities, and that was my intention the last couple of years to support those who were trying to, connect communities and support people to recover from the trauma that we've all experienced during the lockdowns. So what you have to offer is, I believe, it's priceless. It's
Mhm.
priceless, and it's going to save lives and save
Mhm.
families and save relationships. So first and foremost, I want to say thank you as a benefactor of your program, I want to say thank you so much for what you've done and for what you are doing. You know, five shows a week, Dr. Laurie, 5 shows a week you're doing right now. You're creating wonderful content on a variety of topics, and it's going to help a lot of people. So how can folks get a hold of you?
Well, the best way to get a hold of me is my favorite way, which is I just call it call the doc, you know? Like pick up the phone and call me because I answer all my own calls. That's the best way. My website doesn't exist because I don't need a website. But I'd love to have a new website. You know, it's time for rebranding for me. So about every 10 years, I would rebrand. And so we're going to be working on that and getting that out there. Because most recently, I had a client call me the recovery mechanic.
Oh, I like it. Hashtag.
Like Hashtag? Okay. The recovery mechanic. Because let's face it, Jill, whether we've had adult trauma or not, we're all busy recovering from our childhood. I don't think there's one person out there. I mean, when people say to me, oh, Laurie, I had lovely parents and I had the perfect childhood and blah, blah. I'm sorry. You know what? Then your life right now is not reflective of that. See, people try to tell you that. I have clients say, well, I don't need your stuff. I have lots of self-worth. And then I look at their life and it's not reflecting that. Because they have toxic people in their lives. They're living on welfare. And this is not a judgment. This is about, hey, that's just a choice. You don't have to be there. You can be somewhere else if you want. And giving people the tools they need to transition themselves or transform themselves. Because we're very capable of that. We're capable of change, making changes. But most of us wait until there's a crisis. And then we're forced into making a change. Does that make sense?
That's the truth. Oh my goodness. Yes.
And by then it's like over the top, too late, right?
And there's a lot of damage done. Yes.
Exactly. So one of the areas that I promote or that I like to work in, of course, is, and that's the design of the workshops, is prevention. So if we can work with our young people and our young parents and help people to stop doing and making those poor decisions that get them in those risky places. You know, when we do enough prevention, hopefully my son will never see the inside of a detox center.
Yes.
You see, because of late, you'll hear people say, and I like to be a little dramatic here, so forgive me, but people will say, oh, he's an addict, he's on drugs, she's on drugs. They must have had some kind of childhood trauma. You think? We knew that 30 years ago. Okay. So prevention is key. And the other key component is aftercare. And what I mean by that is when somebody comes out of the trauma, out of the detox center, out of jail, what's in place for them to move forward so they never have to go back to that experience. So we do aftercare work, we do prevention work, and we've got lots of professionals out there to dry, you know, to detox you. So I'm not in the detox business, but I am in the empowerment business and prevention and education. I'm an educator. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a psychologist. The doctor is the result of an honorary doctorate I was granted in 2023 for the decades that I've already worked in specialized communities.
As a humanitarian.
Yes.
Yes. And it's so important, you know, yes, these programs are out there. They do help people, but to when you come out of there, what supports and what do you have to help you integrate what you've learned and to maintain that level of wellness?
Well, because you see,
level of recovery.
Yeah, because most people, when they come out, they just fall back into the environment, the community, the people they hung out with, because there is no alternative way to get the support.
Mm-hmm.
This year, I have housed 3 women for
Mm-hmm.
30 days each
Mm-hmm.
for aftercare. They came and stayed for 30 days, and they're flying high right now, you know?
And you touched on something a moment ago where you said, people show up and they look put together, but when you see them in their home environment at the end of the day, they're living in turmoil and chaos.
That's right.
And that is a reflection of what's going on internally.
That's right.
And and then I see someone like yourself. I just spent the weekend with you. I see you walking the walk.
Oh,
You have everything set up. You had to settle in a new home, set up your business, reestablish yourself, and set up a healing space for your clients, in addition to setting up your home. And you are living the example of balance and self-worth, and what an example you are to your clients, Dr. Laurie.
well, thank you. And I love to have people, when you can have people drop into your home at any given time,
Mm-hmm.
it takes that stress away of worrying, oh my God, if somebody shows up and you've got laundry sitting on the couch, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, and that comes out of a fear of judgment, but at the same time, sometimes if you could see my bedroom, you'd know, oh my God, she's not that organized. But I have to have one place where I can clutter up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but yes, it is balanced, and I'm really grateful. I didn't start doing any personal work till I was in my 40s,
Mm-hmm.
and I sure wished that's another thing. I sure wished I had started sooner, because that may have prevented me getting into certain situations that I got myself into. So it's really important. And if we don't take care of us
Mm-hmm.
first
Mm-hmm.
and foremost, how are we going to take care of our families?
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to attract the right partner? How are we going to build some security? It's not going to happen.
Right.
And I tell my rich friends, and I have rich friends because they're my clients. And I said, you know what? Yeah, you may look like you said, it may look like you have everything,
Mm-hmm.
but when you don't love who you are, you've got nothing. And we
Yes.
need to teach our children how to value themselves and love themselves,
Mm-hmm.
because if they may not get that anywhere else. And then when I know how to love me, when people like Jill Younghusband come into my life, or Virginia Clark, or any of that love that you girls and guys give me is a bonus. That's extra,
Yeah.
right? Because I don't know about you, but as a single woman, I looked for love in all the wrong places,
Mm-hmm.
and it
Mm-hmm.
was a bad ending,
Yes.
right? Because I didn't love me. I was looking for someone else to love me.
Mm-hmm.
So but that's an inside job, and that takes work.
You mentioned how you didn't get into this work until you were in your 40s, and how you wish you'd learned how to learn this sooner. But without that life experience, for many of us, myself included, I wouldn't have been prompted to do self exploration and personal development. So, and
So true.
also with all of the experiences that you've been through and overcome, you can better relate to your clients. Your level of empathy is over the top, and it's so necessary to help facilitate the healing.
Absolutely. Well, we do a thing called the difference between credentials and credibility. And your
Yes.
credentials are the schooling that got you into your career, but your credibility comes from your experiences
Yes.
and your willingness to share your experiences to support and help other people. Because that's the only reason we're here. I teased you on the weekend and said, people are like, I want to know what my purpose is. I'm looking for my purpose. Well, your purpose, the reason you're here, is to make a difference. So
Yes.
that when you leave, you're leaving the planet a better place than when you arrived.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's just one person at a time. That was another thing we did. One person at a time, one family at a time, one community at a time, because there's a ripple effect. You came and did some work, and people around you are going to be impacted by that because there's a ripple effect.
That's my hope. And yes, I
Yeah.
believe that. I believe that.
All right. Well, guess what? Our time is up.
Oh, wow. That went
I
fast.
know it went fast. It's the fastest hour of the day.
I could carry on for another hour.
Well, we'll do.
It's so easy to talk to you. And
Oh,
I'm so grateful for this. I think this has been my most enjoyable live interview so far.
wow.
Yeah,
Excellent. Well, you're very good at it, I have to say.
thank
And
you.
I love providing opportunities for people to expand their skills or expand
Mhm.
their experiences. So that's another purpose of the show. It gives us a platform to do many, many different things. And for those viewers who aren't aware, on Monday we do self-empowerment, self-care, personal development. Tuesdays, tomorrow, finance with Dr. Ramin Modiri. And Ramin has every financial credential that you can actually get in the United States of America.
Mhm.
You won't find a guy more credentialed than that. But he has a way of taking those complicated financial systems and bringing them to our level.
Yes.
Wednesday is wellness. Thursday, specialized communities, veterans, indigenous community, the disabled community, any other community that wants to be represented here. And on Friday, we try to do something fun. So last week we had you and Dan White from Texas, and both of you are musicians and singers, and that was a fun show that we did on
Yes,
music.
it was.
And then don't forget, we do 6 shows actually, because Tuesday, Doug Smith and I, former NHLer, he and I do a sports show called The Press Box
Mhm.
at 11 o'clock in the morning. So tune in because we always usually have an interesting guest coming from the hockey world or the athletic world. So we've got it covered, man. Our demographics are huge. And somebody said, "Who listens to your show?" I said, "Well, if you're 6 or 93, you can listen and get something out of it."
Right.
Right?
Fantastic. Yes. Healing the world one heart at a time.
That's right. That's
Mhm.
right. Okay, well, we're going to say goodbye for now, and we'll be back tomorrow with Dr. Ramin Modiri. So, bye for now.
Thanks, everyone.
Mhm.
Thank you, Dr. Laurie.
You're welcome.